Hey, I'm Danny, and here's how I made these shots of a railroad apartment building.
If you're unfamiliar with the concept of a railroad apartment, they're a style of apartment commonly found in New York City. They're famous for their lack of hallways and tendency to annoy roommates who have to barge through each other's bedrooms to use the toilet.
I thought it would be cool to use VFX to string 10 of them together into a literal moving train. So here's how I did it.
I knew from the start that this would be two shots. An interior dolly shot passing through as many rooms as I could, and two, an exterior shot revealing that the train is moving through some sort of wilderness. So I found a floor plan of an interesting looking apartment layout and brought it into Blender. I traced all of the walls and then extruded them up. I added doors and windows, I tweaked it to my liking, and then all I had to do was add an array modifier. There. 10 railroad apartments all joined together. I added more detail to this base structure, crown molding, baseboards. I used curves to create a profile for these, and then added another curve to fill the apartments with them. The edge split modifier was crucial here to preserve the face normals. After some experimenting, I settled on showing 4 apartments in approximately 10 seconds. Beyond 10 seconds felt like it was dragging on, and showing more than 4 apartments in that time was just way too fast to see anything. Pretty soon I had 10 unfurnished apartments, and all I needed to do was fill it. So I modeled 900 objects, people, beds, cats, chandeliers. Just kidding. I only modeled 3 things. I did these blinds, I did this mail rack, and I made this laundry basket. And even that was probably a waste of time. This is what Motion Blur turned it into.
Instead of spending the next year modeling all these objects, I sourced the other 900 from a few different places. And I'll mention a few of them.
Polyhaven has really high quality models that are 100% free and public domain. Tons of great furniture that was perfect for this project. Polycam is an app for making 3D scans. I actually scanned my own mail rack here with it. But besides that, it has a huge number of 3D assets all scanned by users that you can download for free. These are CC BY, so you do have to give attribution. You should also use the models with discretion because I get the impression that people have been uploading scans of their friends and grandparents and children without them really knowing that any random person can download their likeness. Use your own judgment. Finally, I want to shout out the National Gallery of Art. I didn't know about this one before this project. I was tempted to fill the walls of these apartments with stupid AI-generated art, but there's really no reason. This website has a huge amount of free public domain art that's not only better than anything Midjourney can spit out, it's also just faster.
I wanted these apartments to feel distinct from each other, but not like separate worlds.
I didn't want this to be another meaningless multiverse bullshit thing that's become sort of trite lately. Don't get me wrong, there are some really cool renders that explore this kind of thing. Clinton Jones has been doing these community render challenges that are really amazing, that combine all sorts of different art styles together.
But for this, I wanted them to be as grounded as possible.
So I came up with 4 different apartment styles. A brightly lit millennial or Gen Z apartment with cheap furniture but loud, colorful decorations. A dimly lit baby boomer apartment with more expensive or antique furnishings. A plant-filled apartment, and finally, an apartment occupied by a startup right out of the TV show Silicon Valley. I used another website called ShotDick to gather references for lighting and general train environments. So with all of my reference together, I sourced the furniture, decor, art, people, and pets that fit each space, and I filled them up. To get the lighting that I wanted, I set my environment strength all the way up to 7. Typically this would only be 1 or 2, but I wanted to flood as much light as possible into the train. I have a few spotlights on the musicians, and I have some volumetric God rays that I'll explain in a second. But really, this entire thing is lit from the HDRI. I then added curtains to whichever rooms I wanted to be more dimly lit, like this one. So the God rays, these were done just by modeling the approximate shapes of the windows and then extruding them. And then they just have this simple volumetric shader. Let's talk about the exterior shot. I originally planned out a sweeping camera move that would brush past the top of the train. However, I underestimated the time it would take me to complete this. I spent a lot of time getting reference, bringing this drone footage into my scene to use as crashing waves, constructing the landscape, but it still was very far from where I wanted it to be, and doing the math, I realized I would need at least another few weeks, if not a month, to get the shot where I wanted it. I actually did have a deadline, and I needed to get this piece done within a week. Pursuing the full CG option just didn't make sense, despite how much work I had already put into it. I've made fully CG environments before, but this time it just wasn't practical. Instead, what I did was I purchased a $25 piece of stock footage, tracked it, aligned it. I drew a spline on top of the railroad path in the footage and gave my train the curve modifier. But I realized that the curve modifier was bending my train like a piece of spaghetti. So to fix this, I separated each part into its own object, so everything was parented to one of the train cars. Then I used the follow path constraint and adjusted the timing in the graph editor like this. I rendered a pass of the train and another of its shadow and combined them in After Effects.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments, and don't bother subscribing. I probably won't upload for like another year. Never leave your